Hi, hello everyone. How's everybody doing on this beautiful day? We're approaching Resurrection Weekend and we are excited about that, the death and burial and resurrection of Jesus Christ. This is Dr. Yolanda Butler and I'm back at you today and we're going to continue our discussion on enduring value of friendship. It's the best. It's the best. Friendship is priceless. Priceless. As I was looking over my notes and just meditating on this subject, I remember a song. When we was in the club, we used to hang out. It was by Houdini, and it was talking about friends. And I liked the lyrics, so I pulled it up, and it was released in 1984. So I was like 24, 25 years old, but it was called Friends. How many of us have them? Friends. How many of us have them? Friends. Ones we can depend on. Friends. How many of us have them? Friends. Before we go any further, let's be friends. And then the little rap sound will come in and it'll say, it's a word we use every day. Most of the time we use it in the wrong way. Now you can look the word up again and again, but the dictionary doesn't know the meaning of friends. And if you ask me, I couldn't be much help because a friend is somebody you judge for yourself. Some are okay and they treat you real cool, but make mistake kindness for being a fool. We like to be with someone because they're funny. Others come around when they need some money. Some you grew up with around the way, and you still real close to this very day. Homeboys through the summer, winter, spring, and fall. And then there's some we wish we never knew at all. And this list goes on again and again, but these are the people that we call friends. And I just said, oh, even even the R&B artists, the hip hop artists had and was in tune to how important friends are and how many times sometimes we get good ones and sometimes we get bad ones. But we want to make sure that we are focusing on developing good friendship, good friendship. So I was looking at, I found a theologian, Thomas Aquinas, and he said, there is nothing on this earth to be prized more than a true friendship. And this is a medieval theologian. Friendship is indeed a prize, and research has shown that just the positive behaviors of those friends and behaviors and emotions, it could be contagious. I met people through other people and we became friends. We call each other, we talk to each other. Even when I was in college doing my master's and my doctorate degree, I have friends that I still talk to. They call me, check on them. We have friends that went through some life changes where their husbands passed or their family was sick and we was there for them. That is a group of people that you have to have around you. And if you don't have at least one or two, I'm suggesting to you it's time to make some friends. Now, if Houdini said you can make some friends, let's become friends. I know you can make some friends, but it also has to depend on your personality, your mood. You can, as I said at our last show, you can't be mean as a snake and expecting somebody to be your friend. Or if you always got something negative to say, I call those type of people nice nasty, because they'll see you in something nice, and instead of say, oh, you look nice in that, they'll say, oh, I seen that outfit on TV. Oh, you know, that color, I like that color, but they will not give you a compliment. They'll give the outfit a compliment, but not give you a compliment. And that's not a friend. That's being jealous or envious of one another. It's not a friend. A friend is there to encourage you, to lift you up, to be there when you need them. And even it's just to go have dinner and a little laughs. That's a friend. So we have to have people around us that have positive behaviors and emotions. And this is what research has shown. This is what research has shown. And we when you find those positive behaviors and emotions, those are people you want to make friends with. These are social groups, okay? So talking about negative behaviors and emotions, calling each other out of their name or one-sided friendship, gossiping, that's not friendship. That's not friendship. And so I believe this is something we have to teach our children, because I remember my daughter, when she graduated from high school, she had friends in high school, but then out of high school, people change, and so she was trying to still be that good friend, but these so-called friends wasn't being that good friend. And I said, if every time you go around them, there's trouble or a situation or they're trying to fight you, that's not a friend. There's people that's setting you up. And you have people like that in the world. And we just have to be aware, and attentive to these behaviors. These are what people call red flags. Red flags. And so you got to pay attention to those red flags, because I know that there are people out there that are good people, and they're looking for people that's good like them, or they're looking for people that has the same personality or care or that they have. They're looking for people like that. So what does a positive friendship look like? Well, I have 3 aspects of that kind of friendship, and that is good for our life. That is good for our life. One thing I was talking with a lady, and she was just saying, I'm just tired, because everywhere she goes, there's negativity, there's fighting, and that life can get tiring. You partying, you drinking, you think these people are friends because you hang out in the bar or y'all meet each other at the bar, but you have to know who they really are. You have to get them outside of those environments and really have a conversation with them to determine, is this person really have a positive behavior and emotion for me? And so positive friendship groups, they're intentional. Intentional. It's just not somebody fly by night, somebody you met on the bus or nothing like that. I remember someone was telling me they met their husband on the bus, and that's what the Lord told them to marry. And this man was beating her and hurting her. No. It's intentional. That means I have to sit down. We have to talk. One of our friends grew up in church with, he was joking, but it's kind of serious. He said, before you marry anybody or hook up with anybody, you might need to get a screening to see if they're crazy, do a background check, see what's going on with them. And then in today's society, we have to do that, because there's so many people wearing masks, so many people acting like they have these positive emotions and behaviors, and they don't. They're only just trying to get close to you. So you have to be aware and attentive to these individuals, because they will fool you. They will fool you. So as few as 5 friends, people you consider true companions who understand you, influence you to be your best self, and they're there to encourage you when life challenges arise. They can make a big impact on your overall well-being. So these are individuals that's going to promote the best out of you, encourage the best out of you, even when you don't think you could do it. Like I talked about my friend Dee Dee, and I was going through my doctorate degree, and I was writing. She was part of my editor and writing, and I was like, I don't think I can make it. And she said, you got this. She was encouraging me and pushing me. And even some of my classmates during that time was like, come on, Yolanda, you can make it. You can get through, because, we had to be on a time schedule, and we had to get certain chapters in at certain times. And I was like, oh my God. And then if it wasn't right, they'd kick the chapter back to you. And you'd be like, oh no, I got to read through this. I'm trying to go on to my next chapter. But these friends, They held me up. They kept pushing me, making me do my best, getting me to my best, encouraging me for my best. They were intentional. These were intentional friends that had that positive friendship, and you have to always focus on that. In Japan, intentional groups, they call them five friends, and they call them moas. Japanese word that means meeting for the common purpose. Meeting for the common purpose. And that's what we have to realize. You know, if we're not meeting to encourage, if we meeting to squawk, gossip, and that's not what it's about. Even in our families, if we come together to talk about the other family members or things like that, that's not what we're there for. We want to be that positive influence, because it's not healthy. It's not healthy physically to be going through arguing and fussing and fighting. That's not healthy at all. And if you're around that environment, my suggestion to you from a mother's perspective is to get yourself out of that situation. So as I'm talking about this friendship, hey, if you watching, call me. Put something in the feed. Let's talk about it. Let's see what your comments are about it. So our positive friendships are intentional, and then we have to have common interests. Now, when we always have the same interests, no, because we're individuals. We're individuals. So individually, we won't have the same common interests. But, just I like to go out and eat. I find out we all like to eat. We all like to fellowship and eat and have a good time. That's one common interest. Now, if you ask me to go to the movies and you're going to watch a really scary picture, I'm not going with you. That is not what we will have in common. And so, because I'll be jumping and hollering and you'll be ready to lead a movie from me doing all of that. So that's not a common interest, but we'll find something that works together for the both of us. So we are intentional groups, and we are forming our relationship. We have a positive friendship. We finding a common interest. And experts say that positive friendship starts always with the common interest, and I have to take a pause right here for the cause, because we think when we meet, that we can't be friends with the opposite sex. Well, if you're one of the ones that's looking for a man, I would suggest no. You can't be friends with the opposite sex, because you're looking for more than just a friendship. Because a friendship is just that. There's no intimacy or anything going on. And so a lot of time, us as women, we're taking these friendships that just should be friendships and turn them into relationships. And then we find out he don't have a job. He's not working. He done got about 5, 6 baby mamas, and then find out that he's a player. He like to jump around from this woman to this woman. So we as women, we have to be careful. And as the young folks say, don't be thirsty. Don't be thirsty. Don't just jump out there just getting anything. If he's a friend, let him be a friend, and let him see that you need to see who he really is. Who he really is, and who will he become in different atmospheres or environments, because they're put on one mask for one place and put on another mask for another place. And then, you get behind closed doors, it's something really totally different with you. So you got to make sure that you don't pick up these individuals or these men and you're trying to be a relationship. No, friendship. Just talk. Just talk. And if you one of them ones, if you can't just be with the opposite sex, but take a friend, take a third wheel with you. That's mother's perspective. Keep you safe. Keep you from going too far, and that where it could be a real relationship. So, and then, it also talks about there are times when the ideal that opposites attract. But if you love spicy food, your best friend would crave comfort food. So you'll share love of cooking and eating together, but the bond is that y'all like food. And that's what I was sharing with you. You like food. I had a friend, she was always on a diet. And that was funny because she'd be dieting and eating salads and beans and stuff. And I'd be tearing up steaks and mashed potatoes and stuff. And and then she'd be like, you don't gain no weight and you eat, and I'm doing all this dieting. And I said, girl, you need to just go on and eat because you're starving yourself. But it was opposite of each other, but we worked, because I had to remind her, look, when you don't eat, your body thinks you're starving and it start feeding off your fat. So it'll just blowing you up to make you, it's just blowing you up. It's not healthy not to eat. You need to eat at least small portions. So I had to get her together with that. But we were friends and we continue to do that. So find your common interest. You want to be intentional and you want to find your common interest. And friendships connect in real life. Real life. It's just not something on social media, how y'all hook up and, y'all talk and find out that y'all got something common just through social media. Because while social media allows us to stay connected with friends and family near and far, it's the real conversations, the real connections that makes the big difference. There's a time and the same place, even a phone call that cements that friendship. I have friends that are in different states. One in North Carolina. I have friends in Cincinnati. I have friends in DC. So these we connect. I don't get to see them all the time, and so friendship is not all we spend every day together or we talk all the time. No, these are the times we call and just encourage one another, check on each other. How you doing? Hey, I miss you. When you coming to Cleveland or when you coming to Cincinnati? These are just times that we just connect. We just connect. And that's what it's about. The phone calls, the times that we could just connect and really just love on each other, real connections, real life situations. So in general, you want friends with whom you can have a meaningful conversation. You don't want to be arguing over dumb stuff, and having bad connections. Just because I said I don't want to go to the movie with you, you're going to get mad and begin to say, why you don't want to go to movies? You don't like me or something? You're going to the left on the conversation. It didn't have nothing to do with that. But so you want people that are having meaningful If I said I don't want to go to the movies, then my friend gonna say, okay, then what you want to do? We're gonna come to a mutual agreement to hang out and have that real life connection. And so what are the hallmark of the positive friendships in your life? I want to end with some biblical perspectives of friendship with David and Jonathan. And when I was reading this, the description sounds like a way the prophet Samuel, describes the friendship between David and Jonathan. Here, David was just a shepherd boy, and Jonathan was the son of a king. So, you would think nothing really in common with them. But when David came up to play the music, well, after he killed Goliath, and then he come back and he would play the harp for Saul when, he was in a bad mood, basically, when he was in a bad mood. Well, Jonathan and him developed a relationship, developed a time where, they just hung out. They had common interests, it was about the king, it was about the kingdom, and then David married his sister. So, now they were brother-in-law. So they had a real connection. So as I said, after David defeats Goliath, he's welcomed into the royal court. And Samuel records this by saying the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. That's friendship. That's friendship. You're connected. If I hurt, you hurt. If I'm going through, you're going through. And we're going to be there for one another. And as I said, David and Jonathan soon became brother-in-laws after David married Jonathan's sister. But their friendship went deeper than the typical in-laws. And so these men, they modeled the friendship in the Bible. So, and I wanted to bring that biblical point because it is a God principle for us to be friends. And that's the reason why God says that no greater love than a man has than he laid down his life for a friend. And that's what we need to get back to because there's so much in society has drawn us apart. You know, kids don't even know how to socialize on the playground and how to be friends. They want to hit and fight, or if someone else has the toy, they want to snatch it away from them. So it has to be a principle that we're also teaching our younger children. So as they grow up, they have that social skill of just being a friend. And so these are the things that I wanted to share in my broadcast as Mother Perspective, because these are the things that I'm seeing in life that people have lost that touch, that caring as for friendship. So these were two men defining model of friendship in the Bible. And to this day, the idea of David and Jonathan friendship is understood to be the deepest and most intimate friendship. And I know I have to, throw this out here because with society and people's lifestyle now, it's not about, that lifestyle. They were truly just friends. They were truly just friends. So you have to always remember that. So when you're looking in several ways in which this friendship manifested is through sacrificial actions and display of generational loyalty. Because after Jonathan was killed, he had a son. And David, he was king. He went and found his son and brought him to his table to feed him. And he lived in the palace, and David took care of Jonathan's son. That's a friendship. And so I have that same friendship with one of my friends that I shared with you, Dee Dee, that passed, and her daughter. I'm still connected to her daughter. I'm still talking with her daughter. I'm still keeping up with her. She went through some challenging times after her mom passed, but I was there no matter what, no matter what, whether she wanted to hear me or not. I called, I checked on her, and now she's in a good place. She's in a good place, and I thank God for that, so though friendship just don't end when a person leaves, it continues on through the generations. Even my another friend that passed, she has a daughter. I'll check on her, talk with her, see how she's doing, because they don't have their mom. And if I could be that support, in a motherly way, and that's what my podcast is about. A mother's perspective, being that mother when that mother is no longer there for them, being there to talk to someone, just to get it all out and just to give them direction, and so that's what my role is. That's what my call is to be that mother. And then here, through those friendships, I'm continuing that friendship through their daughters. And that's what Jonathan and that's what David was showing to his Jonathan's son, that he brought him to his table. So these are principles that are biblical principles, but we have to implement them in today. It's society. We could be friends, but I just wanted to show you there is a biblical principle to being a friend and having friends, and friendships develop. They will develop. And so we have to remember that, so whether you have a godly friendship or you have a friendship outside of God, or y'all just been cool, for all these years and things. And I have friends that from high school, that I call, check on, and this friend, I met her when I was in the 12th grade, but we clicked. Now, and our lives are totally different, opposites, like to say, opposites attract. And so I'm still her friend. Called, check on her, went through some situations when her grandmom died and then her dad died, but was there. I was there for her. So we want to make sure that true friends love one another as much as they love themselves. And this is the same lesson that was shown in my biblical example here, that greater love has no one than this, that someone laid down his life for a friend. So we have to remember that and start practicing friendship. And and if that friend go left on you and start cussing and fussing and misunderstanding, you just calmly say, you know what, I'm going to end this call. I'm going to walk away. When you calm down, we could talk. But it's no reason to hurt each other or to say words that you can't take back, because words do hurt. So we want to make sure that you just keep yourself in line and peace and calm, so that you could continue the friendship, because they might have just been having a bad day that day and just went left on you. But just calmly say, I love you, and hey, we'll talk later when you calm down. And then you'll come back and get a better understanding, and nothing wrong with that. So my time is up. I just want to say thank you for tuning in.